Hello there, and welcome to Gunner U, where there are no degrees because the learning never stops. I'm Dove, a TA here at Gunner U, and my friend Keith is our stalwart distinguished professor of Arsenal and football studies. Enter our classroom as we discuss the week's news involving Arsenal, Premier League, Champions League, and international football, as well as cup competitions, all from the perspective of a couple of Americans. This week we played the fourth round of the Carabao Cup, which, in spite of having 16 clubs, we don't call the round of 16, and then traveled to Burnley in the Premier League. Hello, Keith.
Hello, Dove. Just kind of wondering how many times we're going to mix up Brighton and Burnley. All the bees.
We'll find out. It could be a Brentford-Bournemouth week instead, which I guess would be worse for both of us. So we'll see. We'll keep everyone updated live as that happens.
And by keep you updated, I mean just watch and see what happens.
We usually catch each other on it when one of us slips. It works out.
I mean, that feels like our clickbait headline. Watch and see what happens.
If only we thought ahead about such things. So,
two Americans discuss Arsenal. You'll never believe what happens next.
So, getting to a little bit of news this week, Arsenal set a new record. Can you talk a little bit about what that was?
Yeah, this one was, it's one of those you almost don't even notice when it's happening until the month ends, and then you realize, holy cow, what have you done? Arsenal played 6 games in the month of October. They won all 6 of them. That's pretty impressive. They'd done that before. What they hadn't done before, or at least hadn't done for a long while, and not just Arsenal, really anybody in the English leagues, is they won all of those games by shutout, by clean sheet. Did not concede a single goal in the month of October, and obviously that spoils one of the games we'll talk about this week, but to spoil the other one, so far in November, still the same. So, pretty good. Pretty good.
Yeah, feeling good about that. So let's talk about the first match of this week. This was Brighton and Hove Albion. We played against them on the 29th of October. We beat them 2-0, the first of this week's 2-0 victories. To begin with, we saw a new face that I hadn't heard of before this match. Andre Harriman-Annous. I think I said that right. Another hyphenated academy player. What do we know about him?
Well, the truth is not a whole lot. He was born in December of 2007. Born December 2007. Per his Wikipedia page, because I will be honest, he is not a name that came up. He did, however, I should say, per his Wikipedia page, did play in the friendly against Newcastle in Singapore in the summer before signing his professional contract. This is his professional debut. He apparently played in the 23-24 season, played in the U18s along with Ethan Nwaneri, Miles Lewis-Skelly, and Max Dowman. So he's another one of those players just kind of working his way through the Arsenal system. Apparently has 2 appearances for the England U18 national team, though he is eligible to represent, among other countries, Nigeria, Ghana, and Lebanon. So interesting, kind of exciting to see him get that debut. Welcome to Arsenal, or welcome to, I guess, the senior team, at least in this context. It is one of the nice things about the Carabao Cup. This was a very Wenger-esque lineup, and we'll talk about the lineup more in a bit, but yeah, we really kind of reflects, I think, a little bit of the importance of the depth we've had and the kind of where we've been hit with injuries, that we needed to rest our number 9, and this is where we went to. And in the Carabao Cup, you can kind of get away with that, which, we got away with it, I guess. Basically.
Yeah. It was interesting watching this match. No VAR, so it made certain parts a little less tense. It's like, well, okay, they called it offside. I guess that's it. Certain moments like that, I didn't realize. I guess the way they decide for this competition whether VAR is in effect for a given round is whether the stadia where the matches will be played have the equipment. So if all of them across the entire round have it. Basically, everyone's on equal footing and they have it in place. So do we know, should we expect that it will return for the quarterfinal?
I kind of anticipate, we'll talk about the draw in a little bit, but looking at the home sides, I don't really see any. I see one potential question mark, the Cardiff City Stadium, but looking at it, it appears to be a pretty impressive facility, and I would be surprised if it was not VAR equipped.
Okay. Well, we'll stay tuned. We find out what, I guess it's going to be in January or February or something, the quarterfinal.
We'll talk about that post game, but it is scheduled currently for the week of I think December 16th, whatever that Monday is. But it is the specific date is a bit up in the air for reasons we'll get into a little bit later.
Interesting. Before we get to some of the more serious and match-related topics, I need this reminder every so often because for whatever reason it doesn't stick in my head. What is a Hove? And also, what is an Albion?
So we call them Brighton because that's where the stadium is, and I think it's the larger town in the region. But Hove is another seaside town next to it. So it's really a club for Brighton and Hove. That's really their name, Brighton, Brighton and Hove. Albion, I don't know where it comes from in the context of the club, but Albion is kind of an old, probably it sounds like a vaguely Roman name for Britain or for England. So Albion, sort of a reference to...
so as an English club, like saying we're an English club. Oh, okay.
Ye olde England, I think, is kind of where an Albion would come in.
Okay. Got it.
I'm sorry, just look quickly up. It appears to come from Greek.
Greek, oh, okay. Interesting.
As far as the Latin, so...
Huh. Yeah, either way.
Whatever. But it is something you hear reference to talking about England and sort of the history of England. Talking about Albion. It's kind of a poetic way of talking about it as well.
Yeah. All right. So the first half, we had a pretty rotated lineup. Just to list off the names that we had starting. So Kepa Arrizabalaga and Miles Lewis-Skelly and Piero Hincapié. Christian Mosquera, Ben White, who, we aren't seeing as much these days. Mikel Merino was one of our, kind of A-squad players that we did have playing. And by the way, wearing the captain's armband, I don't remember that for him in the past. Christian Norgard, Eberechi Eze, Ethan Nwaneri, Max Dowman, and Andre Herriman-Anous. Really only Merino and Eze are the only starters that we saw in this lineup. So,
and really, Marino's not even actually a starter. He's kind of a Swiss Army knife off the bench player.
Yeah,
I think is a way to describe him. Yeah, I mean, it's interesting the way they talk about it, which definitely tells you a lot about sort of the mental way this used to be approached. They talk about 10 changes from the lineup from the weekend, from when we beat Palace. Which I guess isn't really accurate because it's technically accurate. Let me rephrase that. It is technically true that there are 10 players different in terms of the starting lineup, but because these are effectively separate competitions, like you're not thinking about, I don't know. That just always struck me as a very weird way to describe that, because that's of course how we were generally likely to approach this. Although throwing in Lewis-Skelly and Nwaneri, Dowman, Harriman-Anous was a very Arsene Wenger-esque kind of turn the Carabao Cup into a youth competition.
Right.
Which may say a little bit about where we think of the cup, where we think about the cup in terms of our general priorities. Although having said, you look at that lineup, just look at that back line. Arrizabalaga, played at Chelsea for several years. We know, of course, about the adventures of Miles Lewis-Skelly and Ben White. Christian Mosquera was a starter at Valencia in La Liga all of last season. Hincapié is regularly capped for Ecuador. That's a starting lineup for a good chunk of the Premier League, and it says something that is entirely our second choice back line.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, it was interesting seeing them play together. Definitely a little bit had to be worked out. Like, this is a configuration we haven't seen before. So much of it was changed all at once. It wasn't quite as smooth as I'm accustomed to for our normal Arsenal level of quality.
Yeah, but I think there's a good comparison point to what we've seen in Carabao Cup matches in years past, where with so much rotation. The big difference here really is they don't have the same drop off in quality of the players, but sometimes it isn't even the quality of the players; it's just their familiarity both with playing and then also playing with each other, and that's kind of limited in this environment, right? Because you're changing so much around, and we talked about this a little bit too. I'm pretty sure last time. Brighton's a tricky opposition. They haven't been quite as good, I think, at the early going of this season, but this is a team that's been consistently mid-table, been consistently troublesome for a lot of the bigger Premier League clubs. And so in that regard, I'm not super surprised. I'll be honest, I didn't actually watch this game. Being in the middle of the day, in the middle of the week, also being the Carabao Cup, but you did see the highlights, and there were a couple of really key saves from Aretha Balaga and some last-ditch defending and a few missed shots on Brighton's part, especially in the first half. I think it's even if we can be sympathetic to or understanding as to why it took place, I do think it's completely fair to be critical of the performance that was put on. It was not particularly impressive.
No, it's true. And yeah, I guess thinking about it for me, I cut them some slack in a large extent just because we know what they were, why basically, right? So I was more forgiving, especially because they did actually manage to stave off any goals. Like, it had it gone really horribly wrong in the first half, well, okay, I guess we were basically out of the competition at that point. But no, they staved it off and held out long enough for goals to be scored in the second half. It was good in this match too. It was more fun to watch than when we saw, for instance, Manchester City earlier this season, where they just kind of bunkered and made us come to them. Brighton played like they were there to play. That was fun to watch. It was really an open game like the whole time, so that was really fun in that regard.
You have to think they saw this as an opportunity. I mean, because they knew they drew Arsenal. They knew that it was an away match, so it's already two very difficult things you're looking at from Brighton's perspective. But you also know that they're going to rotate the side. There's going to be some. You're not going to face the team that's that's put on the performance that's at the top of the table in the league. You're not going to see that starting 11, and so there's an opportunity there if you're aggressive and willing to take it. And Brighton's not the kind of team that's going to want to sit back. I mean, there are a lot of teams that are willing to soak up pressure. We saw it a bunch from Burnley this not to skip ahead to Saturday. That's not how Brighton wants to play at all. They were much more willing to go forward, and they generated a lot of chances too in that first half. We talk again. Aretha Balaga has to make a couple good saves. They have a few shots that go. They're just wide. They're a little closer than I was comfortable with, or I would have been comfortable with had I been watching live. It does make for an entertaining game, and we've been critical of teams, and teams have been critical of us for being overly defensive at times. Your goal, of course, is to win. I'm only going to be so critical of those teams because their job is to win the game, and frankly, if people don't find it very entertaining, for my money, winning is always entertaining. So.
Yeah, of course.
But that being said, if you're going to score goals, they should be fun goals. And these were fun goals. I like these goals.
Yeah, they were good. Before we get to that, one thing that you mentioned got me thinking. So I know from watching baseball this year that you'll usually know in advance of a game, like who the other team is going to start as pitcher or something like that, right? Yeah. And that allows you to kind of decide your lineup in response a little bit, right? Mm-hmm. To what extent is that the case in soccer, I should say, where how much of our lineup did Brighton actually know when they're deciding who they're going to put in, how they're going to play when they're making their pre-match calculations, right?
Yeah, so the lineups themselves don't officially get announced. I think it's typically an hour before first kick,
Oh,
before
okay.
kickoff. Now that's when the lineup is announced. Now, I mean, we talk about the injury reports all the time, obviously, for Arsenal's perspective, who's available, who's not. Brighton has all of the same information. And of course, this is their job to pay attention to that stuff. So they're keeping an eye on it. They have a rough sense of who's potentially available, who isn't. They kind of know what Arsenal's thinking because they're thinking the same thing too. They're not playing necessarily the strongest possible side because both of them are approaching this as here's the cup competition. It's a little less important than the league. So there's a balancing act there. Brighton will also know that the Arsenal's had much more fixture congestion with the Champions League as well. Like we're not saying anything that isn't like that you couldn't find on the club's own website, right? To track down informationally. And for a lot of it, I mean, I know there's a desire for some people to play the matchup game too much and how you deal with certain players and certain circumstances. But so much of what's happening at this level, from my impression, is it's really more about yourself. Like Arsenal isn't coming into the Brighton game, and it's a little bit different if you're Arsenal because, well, you know, you're the more talented team, so you're going to dictate a lot. You're going to think you're going to dictate how much of the game's going to go. You're not really looking at Brighton and saying to yourself, "Oh man, are they going to be more open or are they going to play defensively?" And Brighton too, as I look at Arsenal, like you're generally not going to have an entirely different style of play simply because you have a different lineup. Like you're generally going to play because everyone practices the same way, they run the same drills, they do all the same things.
Right.
So, and theoretically, like we saw, Mosquera comes in for William Saliba. Arsenal doesn't suddenly change what they're doing because, oh man, Saliba's out. What are we going to do? No, just played like Mosquera was just played the same position. And you make some tweaks and adjustments, but so you're not going to see an overhaul. So Brighton's prepping for this game, and they're looking at what Arsenal does, and they're talking about some of the same things. The left back is going to invert and tuck inside. They're going to rely heavily on distribution across the back line with the central defenders and the keeper. They're going to play a lot out to the wings. So in that sense, you're not going to. It's not as if they said to themselves, "Oh no, Mikel Merino's starting. Oh no, what a masterstroke!"
Yeah. Okay. Fair. I see what you're saying. That makes sense. Yeah. So yeah, it's basically they're going based on suppositions, but yeah, but it's solid enough to make. I mean, but I guess there's sometimes though we do see, like I think it was the Manchester City match was where they thought that. I'm trying to remember. There was some. We didn't expect them to bunker as much as they did. They thought that things were going to go differently, and ended up like bringing in different subs at halftime to change the way that the game went.
Yeah, and that'll happen. That's not that. And in these days with the 5 subs, you can do that a lot more. When you only had 3, you had to be much more judicious about where you were bringing players in for, and what's happening with 5. You can do a lot with the 5 subs. You can really change change the game in a lot of ways.
Yeah. All right. So those goals. The first one was just a masterpiece of coordination. Like you got Eze gets it to Merino, gets it to Miles Lewis-Skelly, to Ethan Nwaneri, and gets it in the corner. Really nice coordination and teamwork on that one.
Yeah, a lot of quick passes, one touch. I mean, Merino, that cheeky little back heel is so. Yeah. I mean, he got pigeonholed when we got him as a defensive midfielder. That's not who he is. He really is kind of a technical player who can do a lot of different things, fill in a lot of different places. And that was a great little skill play. Lewis-Skelly makes a nice pass, and Nwaneri with a good shot. There's a part of me that feels like their keeper might want that one back. But overall, it was a really nice finish from Nwaneri, a player who, we talked a lot about, is still really young. And so it's nice to see him getting a little bit more run and some playing time. Especially, I am a tiny bit surprised we haven't seen him maybe a little more as a central attacking midfielder with Odegaard out. But then again, if you're looking at the midfield, who do you drop out of Eze, Rice, and Zubimendi? You know, like
Right.
that's going to be an interesting question when Odegaard comes back, how they approach that sort of thing.
Yeah. The second goal, uncharacteristically for Arsenal, 2 goals, both scored from open play. So our second one was young Andre Herriman-Anous takes a bold shot, kind of right at the keeper and bounces off his body, but Saka is there to pick up the pieces and put the ball where it belongs, and 2-0 to the Arsenal. So,
yeah, Harriman-Annous again. That's a tough shot in at that distance. This is a really good job to get it hard, into the sense that he gets the rebound, right? You're not taking that shot and it's rolling in and the keeper's able to smother it. All he can do is kind of parry it, and it ends up right in the foot of Saka. He's done this far too many times. Just, calm, one touch around the keeper, fires it basically into an empty net. As cool as you can be for a goal like that, and the speed of which that game moves, you can almost, that's one of those you kind of watch him and just go, oh, right, he is kind of better than this. Like,
yeah, that's true. So yeah, leading out of this match a little bit, we did have the draw followed shortly after. We found out who we're going to play and what the other matchups are going to be. So what should we all know there?
So the short and sweet version is that our quarterfinal game will be at home, which is really the most important part, against Crystal Palace, who we have seen most recently. Just quickly, the other draws: Cardiff City will host Chelsea. They're really the one. Cardiff is the one you probably wanted if you had your pick of the other 7. Also, Manchester City home to Brentford, and then Newcastle United at home against Fulham. So only one non-Premier League team remaining in the competition. I'd say the most important thing here, well, the 2 important things, is that we got a home game, which is preferable, and we avoided the big ones, the Chelsea, City, and Newcastle United. I think.
Right.
I'm again, if you had to pick, I would have picked home to Cardiff, but I'm not upset about the draw as is. Not nearly as upset as Crystal Palace is going to be about all of this.
Yeah. Now, going forward from the quarterfinal to the semis to the final, I guess this question doesn't really matter for the final, but are we in a bracket starting in the quarterfinal, or is it going to be another draw for the semifinal?
No, like we saw last year, there is a draw after the quarterfinals, which will determine the semifinals. The semifinals, remember, are 2 legs, so
right.
There is going to be that. However, what makes this interesting is, at this point, as we record on the evening of Sunday, November 2nd, we don't yet know when the game is going to be. And when I said Palace wasn't terribly happy with the draw, not so much that they have to go away to Arsenal, because they've done that and put in a pretty decent showing, I thought. They certainly won't be afraid. But that week is that week they're coming in includes the following games. On Thursday the 11th, they'll be away to Shelbourne, who's an Irish side that they're facing in the UEFA Conference League. On Sunday they'll be away to Manchester City, and then the following Thursday they will be home to I have no idea how to actually pronounce this. I believe it's the initials KUPS, a Finnish side also in the Conference League. And then Sunday the 21st, they're away to Leeds. So currently they're scheduled to play 4 games in 11 days. Smack in the middle of that would be the Carabao Cup.
Right.
They could be looking at the possibility of playing 4 games in 8 days.
Wow. And all away.
5 and 9. No, one of them would be home.
Okay.
The Finnish team.
Cups, yeah.
The Finnish team. It's interesting because it's capital K, lowercase u, and then capital PS. So that's where confusion comes in. But yeah, so that's bonkers. Like, that's really weird. It seems to be that the game is going to be played. This is some of the options. Probably Tuesday the 16th, which would give them 4 games in 8 days, or they could actually push it forward to Christmas Eve, knowing that at least, I know Arsenal isn't playing, I think, until that Saturday after Christmas, which I think is the 27th.
I was seeing that there was some discourse online about, I guess they canceled or moved around all the Boxing Day matches. There's only going to be one Boxing Day match this year, which is a typical mainstay.
Yeah, so as I understand that it has a lot to do with the fact that Boxing Day is a Friday. And because of the TV contracts the Premier League has, they typically play their games on Saturdays and Sundays. It's one thing if Boxing Day is a Thursday, because then you can just kick everyone's games to Sunday. But because it's here on, because it's the Friday and then you have a Saturday and a Sunday, you kind of have to squeeze them in there. So this is not unprecedented. There is the Premier League has had a Christmas Eve fixture. They said in 2023, Wolves and Chelsea played on Christmas Eve for the first Christmas Eve game in 28 years. It was a Sunday, though, so a little different. And then 2019, here's an interesting one. Liverpool played the Carabao Cup quarterfinal with Aston Villa the day before the opening of the Club World Cup, the old version of the Club World Cup, which was played in Qatar. So Liverpool had two games had a game in back-to-back days.
Ooh.
They took their senior side to Qatar and basically played their academy team. I mean, literally the academy team, because anyone who played for the senior team was in Qatar. And they lost 5-0, big surprise. But then they won the Club World Cup, so
yeah, priorities.
They got some criticism, and there were some pointed comments apparently from like the FA about that. And Liverpool's response is, "Well, what the heck are we supposed to do?" Like, and Liverpool's right there. I don't really know what you're supposed to do in that circumstance. There is potentially an option where you postpone a Premier League game for either team. Arsenal plays, let's see. So there's that weekend, Saturday the 13th. Arsenal's home to Wolves. Palace is away to City on Sunday. Maybe you postpone that one. The next weekend, both of them play on Sunday of the 21st. Arsenal's away to Everton, and Palace is away to Leeds. So that's a possibility, though the Premier League is generally loath to do that kind of thing, at least when it comes to the League Cup. FA Cup's a little different, and usually you're dealing with the really late stages of the competition. So you're limiting the number of games that get shuffled around, but I don't know. This is an interesting one. I don't have a good answer for this. Other than, I guess we're just going to find out. It's a weird one. So we'll kind of see what happens with this one.
Yeah, definitely. Well, that's about it for Brighton, but time to enter November. Happy November. Yes. As we sit here recording, it's November 2nd. This game was yesterday, November 1st, Saturday, against Burnley. This is away at Burnley. And another one that we won 2-0. I'll take that trend. 2-0 is better than 1-0. It's twice as good, right?
It's just like the song says, 2-0 to the Arsenal. That's what we always say, right? Isn't it?
Yeah. It's funny. I actually was telling someone about 1-0 to the Arsenal earlier today because my son's team ended up winning 2-0. It was his first clean sheet in a full match as goalkeeper. So that was exciting for him. But yeah, so this Burnley match, the first thing that I noticed was a different commentary team than I'm accustomed to for Premier League coverage. And one of the voices in particular was a really strong accent. And I wasn't sure, is that a Geordie accent that I was detecting? I haven't fully attuned myself to that yet.
No, that's a Scotsman. I don't remember the guy's name, but that was definitely a Scottish. The analyst was Scottish. And if he wasn't, then I don't know what the heck he was. But that's a Scotsman.
I guess he's from a part of Scotland that I haven't heard speak very, very much before. The next thing that I was curious about is there was one familiar face from Burnley, and apparently the commentary team said that we thumped them 5-0 the last time we played there, but there was just the one player in common between that lineup and this one, which was interesting. But a new face for them, but a familiar face for me was Kyle Walker. Where had I seen him before? I knew I'd seen him about the Premier League.
He was late of Manchester City. He was there for a number of years. He is definitely on the downside of his career at this point. They had a couple of names that I recognized. Another one was the keeper, Martin Dubravka, who was formerly of Newcastle United, who's a pretty good keeper. Had a pretty good day yesterday, I thought, actually.
Yeah, frustratingly so, yeah.
But yeah, Kyle Walker, yeah, he's definitely not the player he was. He's 35 now, which is old for a professional athlete, younger than both of us, but, old for a professional athlete, and his speed was a big part of his game. And as they say, that's one of the first things to go. So,
sure,
yikes. Yeah, he had a rough day, and we'll get into some of his difficulties. But yeah, on his day, a pretty good player for some pretty good City teams.
Yeah. So I noticed there was one shot that caught me off guard. We're watching this Burnley match, and all of a sudden they show a costumed bee mascot lying outside the touchline against Burnley. First of all, it was just bizarre. Like, what's he doing lounging there? And then also, wait a second, they have mascots in the Premier League? Because we talked before about the only time the term mascot has come up for us is the children who hold hands with the players as they take the pitch are mascots. And when they're using that term, I guess I inferred that's what a mascot is in England. It is just that there wouldn't be costumed, fuzzy, furry mascots taking the pitch, but apparently there are. Is that a Burnley thing, or do other clubs have mascots?
There are quite a few of them have mascots. We've seen Manchester United has at least one, maybe two Red Devils. Okay, you saw Bertie Bee in a I don't really know how to describe what he was doing there, but it was definitely an oddly relaxed position. That was very interesting. I don't really know what to make about that. But we just went out. Arsenal has a mascot. How have we not talked about Gunnersaurus?
Gunnersaurus, what?
Gunnersaurus. So I've sent you a link.
Okay.
We're doing this live on air, folks. He's never seen Gunnersaurus. Well, at least he doesn't realize he hasn't yet. Go ahead and click that link and introduce yourself to the finest mascot in the league.
Oh, wow. Maybe I've seen it on the website relative to some youth activities or something, like if they're talking about like youth stadium tours or something, but that is interesting. He's got a necklace, like a choker style necklace that he wears.
It's a collar,
collar. Okay.
He's domesticated.
He's a well-trained dragon. Okay. Got it.
Dinosaur. Gunnersaurus. He is a dinosaur.
Interesting. Wow. Yeah.
So yeah, he was introduced in 1993, which was also the summer of Jurassic Park, and a young Arsenal fan basically sent in a picture, like basically sketched out what he wanted this to look like, what he thought the mascot could look like, and it looks pretty similar to what actually they actually came up with. And decided that they want a dinosaur as their mascot because why not? And thus was born Gunnersaurus.
It's definitely less weird than an anthropomorphized cannon would be, I suppose.
Yeah, that's that. So, oh gosh, what was it? It was the Columbus Blue Jackets, the NHL team, who has a lot of Civil War motifs with their stuff, including an actual cannon in the arena they shoot off when they score, which is kind of hilarious. But
no ball, I'm guessing on that one. It's a blank. Powder only.
It's a blank. But they did for a brief while have a guy in a cannon suit, and it was. It didn't work. Let's just go with that. It didn't work. Yeah. So Arsenal has Gunnersaurus, and he's been a mainstay with the club. It was actually a minor scandal during COVID that a member of the club that was let go was a longtime member of the club who had done a lot of things around the organization. One of which was he regularly was the guy who played Gunnersaurus.
Oh,
and he was let go. He has been replaced in that. There's another guy in the suit, probably several at this point, guys in the suits now, but there was a minor dust up during COVID and how sad it was to let the guy go.
Yeah.
But Yeah, so Gunnersaurus, he's real.
Yeah, now I know he's real and he's spectacular.
He is. He is.
I wonder what size shorts those are that he's wearing. They are pretty massive. I feel the entire first squad could probably fit within the waistband.
If you see it's interesting. If you look at the original sketch there that was originally submitted, he has a pot belly on that one too, which is a choice. I don't know what that says. Given the inspiration is Jurassic Park, or whatever you want to say about the dinosaurs, they are lean, mean. They're not. They're wow, interesting. But yeah, you know what? It's so goofy. It kind of crosses that threshold from making no sense to just being kind of lovable because it makes no sense.
Yeah.
Like, why is Arsenal's mascot a dinosaur? Why not?
Yeah. Well, while we're talking about classic cinema, is it just me, or does the Burnley manager strongly resemble Greg Marmalard, the president or vice president, I forget which, of the Omegas in the movie Animal House? Did you notice that at all? I
have to say, I did not pick up on that. It's the hair, isn't it? He's got that kind of
maybe the hair, the kind of the shape of his face. He's got like a kind of like flat, smooth, like cliff of a face, like not a lot of contour from his eyes down to his jaw. I don't know, something. I'll put a side-by-side picture up for viewers to make their own determinations.
I mean, I remember him. He was a manager at Fulham recently. I'm just looking through. He was at Fulham for a couple of years. Also was at Bournemouth for a season. Then went to Club Bruges in Belgium, which is but
interesting.
Yeah, but now it has at Burnley. He was at Burnley last year when they won the championship with a pretty impressive record, especially defensively.
Yeah,
but has since. Now is now there with them here in the Premier League.
And clearly, I mean, the defense was the star of the show for Burnley yesterday. I mean, they defended pretty well against us for a lot of the match. So,
and in that first half, they sure had to, because boy, howdy, we came at them. That first half was about as dominant as we've seen. I feel like we said that a couple times. As I say that, I feel like I've said that a couple times this year. But it was 2-0 at the half, and frankly, could have been more. We really put it to them, which we'll talk about the goals first, and then kind of shift to the second half. But we really came after them in that first half. It was fantastic.
Yeah, we had the fire in our bellies in a way that we haven't seen in every match, and it's good to see it come out against a team who we kind of, to be honest, I mean, expect to win against, right? Like, we weren't going into Burnley afraid or like thinking, okay, we need to be careful of this one. We need to make sure. No, I mean, we pretty much expected to win, but to see them come out in really strong form and try and make a statement about it. But that was good. I would also say, though, I remember one particular instance. I think it was, I want to say Jurriën Timber had collided with another player and, was going over, helping him up. Like you could tell it wasn't like a contentious match. Like there was like that sense of, I don't know if chivalry is quite the right word, but kind of like, looking out for those beneath you with like some deference, like kind of being gentlemanly about it,
Yeah, I'm not going to go into so much beneath it, but yeah, I think there was a sense of fair play on both sides. Like it wasn't an overly physical game. There were some physical moments, obviously. Mm-hmm. I mean, certainly they are a team that currently sits 17th. They open the game in 16th. They're struggling a little bit in terms of coming up, although currently not in relegation position, so they can feel good about that. But certainly, I think the game certainly didn't have the same kind of edge that we saw, that obviously you would see in a game against Newcastle. Certainly, but even City has a little bit of that too. I didn't see any of that there in that regard.
It was good. I mean, it was good seeing them like keep their foot on the gas for that entire first half, and they pretty inarguably let off the gas a little bit in the second half, but not all the way. And I guess you could kind of say who would blame them Like, I don't think Burnley was a threat at all until like the 7th minute of second half stoppage time with that free kick. There was no time where we really felt like we were going to likely get scored on. So for them to kind of take it easy a little bit, like, I kind of gave them a pass on that. How did you feel about that?
I think it was like we talked about the games coming thick and fast now. I think that they were in a position where, and partly I think this was due to some of the substitutions that were made, that having gone up 2-0, there wasn't necessarily the need or the desire to really like put Burnley to the sword. Like winning 5-0 doesn't really, I mean, obviously it does a little bit for your goal difference, but it doesn't. At this point, there's a benefit, especially given some of the injuries that we've had piling up. I mean, we talk about the records we're accumulating. One of the unfortunate ones seems to be an injury per game, which is what I'd really like us to stop doing.
Yeah.
But I do think there was a sense that, and some of it was the players that came on. Like we talked about how good a player Marino was. I thought Marino coming on, and he coming on for Gyökeres to start the second half. I mean, speaking of injuries, Gyökeres, but like Marino clearly is not the same kind of player for all of his strengths and all of his skills. Clearly not the same kind of player, and I think that kind of hurt us a little bit too. We spent so much time talking about the rotation right for the League Cup. Sometimes the substitutions, especially if they're injury related, kind of throw the rhythm off as well when it comes to playing the game. But at that point, you're up 2-0, so you can take it a little easier.
Yeah, that's an interesting thought. I hadn't thought of taking Gyökeres out and what that effect would have on the second half. That makes sense. Before we talk about the goals for this match, I do want to point out we've had a couple recent anniversaries for Arsenal. We had Saka's 200th match, I think, recently. And what was the anniversary that Arteta had hit either before or just after that?
300th game?
I think 300th as manager or head coach. Yeah. So this match this was the 100th for Trossard. And then kind of interestingly, when he was brought out in the first minute of stoppage time, Miles Lewis-Skelly was brought on for him, and it was his 50th already, which is crazy that at this point he's already played 50 matches with the senior squad. That's really something.
Yeah. I mean, jeez.
Yeah.
Again, I mean, it really says something, especially we talked about this last year when it was happening. But yeah, for him, the way he sort of came on and kind of established himself as the left back down the stretch, of a team that was competing for a lot of important stuff. I mean, we saw that too, right? He got rested in the league so that he'd be ready to play Real Madrid and Paris Saint-Germain in the Champions League. I mean, that was quite a statement of 10. They have 50 games already. Wow. I would not have guessed that was that quick.
No, exactly. So it's good to note. Hopefully we get way more than 50 more out of him. It's looking that way.
But yeah, I was about to say, and here's to the next 50, and hopefully a lot of 50s after that too.
Exactly.
50's apparently not really that many, as we just established.
Trossard, I think another 100 out of him, I think would be good. I think he's been great for us. We've talked a lot about his quality, and I think 100 is a reasonable number. I think before we look to get rid of him and sell him to another club, bring in someone younger, I think we could probably expect to get another 100 or so over the next 2-3 years out of him. He's been getting a lot of starts recently, too.
Well, no, 100 games over that stretch, I mean, that would essentially be every game over the next... the remainder of this season and then 2 more, which I think would be a lot for Trossard. I kind of don't want to see him that often. But hey, if he does, as long as he keeps producing, obviously you go with it. But I mean, I think at that point, if you're talking about getting rid of him, given his age, you're not going to get a lot for him. People aren't going to pay a lot of money for a guy who's at that stage of his career. So again, it's not always about maximizing the revenue on the sale. Sometimes it's about taking advantage of the player while you have him and what he means for us. I mean, we're not selling Trossard right now because of what we need and how we're competing on 4 fronts. So yeah, but 100 is impressive. I mean, he's really a guy. He was the plan B. We were going to sign Mykhailo Mudryk in that window, and obviously, I think being part of whatever the heck is happening at Chelsea is a big part of why Mudryk's kind of stalled. But Trossard was an established player in the Premier League at Brighton. He was an Belgian international already. So you're buying a known quantity, and I think we've gotten. I don't want to say exactly what we wanted out of him. I have to think like Arteta and to a certain extent Edu, who were in that deal, are pretty pleased with themselves with what they got from that, especially given how Mudryk's career has developed to this point.
Yeah. Yeah, so getting to the goals, we have the return of Set Piece FC for the first one. This is a beautiful delivery from Declan Rice from his corner side. Do we call that the left side, I guess? Or is it the right side? How do we refer to it?
Left side.
Yeah, so a left side corner from Declan Rice. I think the first bounce was off of Gabriel. It took a bunch of viewings of the replay to see exactly who it bounced off of initially, but Gabriel goes off the ground and into the air to Victor Gyökeres' waiting head.
Yeah, nice point-blank header into the net. I feel like every time we set up for a corner and they show Gabriel just getting into position, I feel like you should play the Jaws music just because he's seeing him lurk around. He was... Yeah. But yeah, he might get the touch, but even if he doesn't get the touch, he's just put himself in a position where the ball is meant to go back across. There's Gyökeres. I mean, that's, again, we talk about goal scorers' goals, poachers' goals, a guy who's just always in position, and he just nods at home. There's no fuss about that, and then he's able to celebrate the goal. We talked about kind of how subdued his celebrations were in the midweek game, right? That when he's first scored, especially that first goal when he scored against Atletico. This one, he was ready to go. He was excited. It was exciting to see. And, 1-0.
Yeah. Then for the second one, we had Gabriel heading the ball to Victor Gyökeres, another involvement for him, kind of a second or third degree, but third degree it looks like. But then he managed to make an amazing pass way, way, way into space ahead of Trossard, who had to chase it down to get to it. And he did. And then he crossed to Declan Rice in the air, who headed in the second goal from open play this time. It was just similar to the first goal against Brighton. Just great teamwork, great ball movement. Just what you expect from a dominant team like Arsenal in this circumstance. It was great.
Yeah, actually, I do say, though, we may have to count this as a set-piece goal because this whole sequence begins on an attempted long throw by Kyle Walker.
Right.
But we talk about why teams play Arsenal defensively. This is why, because Burnley is far forward. They're trying to play offense, and they turn the ball over, and boom, Arsenal goes the other way. I mean, what a pass from Gyökeres, that ball, that diagonal ball across into space. I know he says up the field and Trossard has to run it down. There's no one else near that ball. That ball is put into space for Trossard to pick up. Makes a good cross in. Rice finishes it. I thought Rice was had a really good day yesterday. He's kind of settled in a little bit more to the role he's being asked of with Zubimendi and is really sort of settled in. I thought he was really good in terms of yesterday's game, and nice for him to get the goal to cap that off. You did notice as well in his celebration, does the point up to the skies. Apparently, his aunt passed away this past week. So,
okay.
Obviously that's going to be a difficult one for him, and not that it makes you feel better, obviously, but you hope that there's a little bit of comfort in having a moment like that.
Now, the club was wearing the black armbands, though. There was a defender from Arsenal's past, I think, who had passed away this week or something, right?
Yes, and if you'll give me a moment, I'll pull up the name because I just seen it.
I remember them talking. Oh, what was the name?
Willie Young.
Right. They were talking about him, how he was basically like in a pair like this, like Saliba and Gabriel, one of the two center backs.
Mm-hmm. I don't know much. Played with Arsenal in the 70s.
Okay.
And it was a key part of some of their successful years in that period of the club's history. But also, I had actually kind of forgotten about Young during the game because you also saw they were wearing the red poppies and pregame.
Oh, right,
done
right.
The playing of taps in the moment of silence, or not wasn't taps, but they played the playing of the bugle and the moment of silence as we come towards Armistice Day, or as it's we call in the U.S., Veterans Day, but November 11th, and marking the end of the First World War.
Right. Oh, is it right? So this is their last home match, I guess. Before that, it's a little bit early for them because of that, or something.
I believe that's going to be the case if I'm looking at because we're coming up on an international break again. Yeah, we were coming up on an international break. Yeah, their next game is away on the 8th to West Ham, and then the next game is home on the 22nd. So if you're looking at the 11th itself, I'm just trying to look at my calendar. It's after the next weekend's games. So so Arsenal won't get that, actually. They're because they're away this weekend again there as well. So they won't be back at home until later in October.
Right. Yeah, so let's talk about the injury list. So we have Victor Gyökeres added to that as of yesterday. What is the current state of injured players and their projected return dates?
Right. So quickly, as far as Gyökeres came off with what Arteta described as, quote, a little niggle in a muscle. I think someone had said hamstring, but don't quote me on that. It was muscular, so they said we'll have to wait and see, and that's really kind of the term for Gyökeres, wait and see. He's done a lot. Like, it was kind of surprising that almost surprising that he wasn't playing against Brighton in the Carabao Cup because he had just played pretty much everything else. Which
and
is
going 90 in almost every performance that he's had. Like he doesn't really get subbed out much.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And he's taken some physical poundings. I mean, he's not afraid to get physical, but we talked about that especially early in the year, how he was kind of having to adjust to the increased physicality of the defenders, the better, stronger defenders that he was seeing in England versus what he was seeing in Portugal. So obviously you hope there's nothing there. We consider, just looking at Arsenal forwards, Kai Havertz, Gabriel Jesus, Noni Madueke, Martin Odegaard, Gabriel Martinelli are already out. They were missing the Burnley game due to injury. So we're already pretty light up top. That's why he's been playing so much. So if he's out for a bit, that's not great.
I think I forgot about Martinelli being injured.
Yeah, I think I said it was something that he picked up against Palace. So because he'd come off a little limping in that one as well. However, in terms of coming back, let's see these are just some notes. Now, this is granted from The Athletic, coming in on the 31st on Friday. So Arteta is hopeful that Martin Odegaard, Noni Madueke, and Kai Havertz could be back to face Spurs in the North London derby. That would be November 23rd. So out of the international. Otherwise, they were looking at, let's see, who else? Martinelli wasn't going to Burnley. Arteta said this game was going to come too early, so hopefully we can see him before the break. William Saliba missed the Carabao Cup game, and we saw played in the played against Burnley, so he seems to be okay.
Right.
But we'll see how that plays out. And again, this goes into the scheduling conversation we had. Yeah, for Palace, it's particularly difficult with the 4 games in 8 days. But for us, it's potentially pretty difficult. It's certainly not, and it's going to come on. It's certainly quite a couple of games crammed closely together, and is going to come on the heels of us having done the 2 games a week for a couple of months at that point.
Sure. You had mentioned during our planning for this episode that there was some interesting shifts that had happened in our formation during the Burnley match. What was there that you had noticed?
Well, I think the big thing is really just how flexible Arsenal is in terms of where players are going. The fulcrum of this really is Ricardo Calafiori, who just sort of appears at random places around the pitch. There was at one point, I think it may have been Marino, somebody basically rolled a back heel to no one in the box, and you're kind of like, well, what was that all about? And then you kind of think about, he just must have assumed Calafiori was going to be there. But as he does that, you'll see players drifting around. There were periods where Timber was actually on the left for a moment. There was a period. Eze is another player who kind of drifts around a little bit. Even Gyökeres can drift around a little bit. So what you're seeing a lot are players who aren't necessarily as wedded to particular parts of the field in the way we have seen and talked about in years past. We increasingly have positionally flexible players who are now using that skill in the course of the game and actually moving themselves out and moving around and finding spaces around the field. I thought it was really effective early on against Burnley. And again, I think Calafiori is the extreme example of that, but it does open up spaces for other players to appear and move around the formation, which, how do you break down the low block? You appear in the places they aren't expecting you.
Right. Yeah, makes sense. Who was your player of the week this week?
This one's tough because the lineup was so heavily rotated. There's so many different players across both games, which is awesome, we should say, and that we're able to pull that off. But for me, I guess I have to just pick the best performance I saw this week. And for me, it was Victor Gyökeres. Even though he only got the first half of the Burnley game, I thought it was as good a half as he has played in an Arsenal shirt this season. He was everywhere. He was creating opportunities. And he was a key figure on both goals, obviously scoring the first, but also the crossfield pass to Trossard to set up the second goal. To me, he was to me, that shift he puts in was probably the best one I saw throughout the round. It's just disappointing that it had to end abruptly and prematurely because of a muscular injury that hopefully will not be too serious and to keep him out.
Right. Yeah, no, good shout. I picked him last week. He's definitely heating up. We're starting to see some good productivity from him, and yeah, he's a joy to watch. I'm really I'm there with him. I'm on board the Gyökeres train. So for me, it was an interesting determination. How would I pick a player this week? So I did see both matches in their entirety. I had enough thoughts that I could willingly pick from either of them. And the question is, okay, well, we basically had two entirely different teams for each of them. So no one really was dominant across both matches. So it was a question of how do I pick which match is the more important, essentially. The way that I came down on that decision was against Burnley. If we didn't get a result, yeah, it's embarrassing, but the rest of our season we probably are still fine. Whereas we lose against Brighton, we're eliminated. This is a season where we feel like we really have to get a trophy. The Carabao Cup, we're really hoping, is the first in a list of trophies that we're able to pick up this season. I have a lot of hope and faith in getting that trophy this time. I didn't want to see that slip. So for me, the Brighton match was more important. And in assessing that match, to me, the key player throughout that match was Kepa Arrizabalaga. The saves that he made throughout, but especially in the first half. If he isn't there, if he doesn't make those saves in that first half, if he isn't in good form, we don't survive to the second half where we scored the goals and came back and actually got the victory out of it. So he did really well. A little weak in his distributions, I think, when we're comparing against Raya. I'm wearing my Raya kit today. When we're comparing him against Raya, that's probably where he falls shortest. There was a couple times where he booted it up the pitch and it went over the touch line or something. Like he wasn't quite on point with his distributions. To be fair, also Raya had one or two that weren't so great against Burnley yesterday. But no, just a good performance. I'm glad that we have a good, competent backup keeper that we can feel more secure. Should something, hopefully nothing does, but should something befall Raya, that we're not going to be in despair. Like, we've got a pretty good backup. So.
I think in that sense, yeah, he's obviously a major improvement or upgrade from Neto from last year. First of all, he can play in the Carabao Cup, which is a nice change of pace. I think that's fair. We talked about sort of the looseness we had across the field, in the midfield, and in the back for that Brighton game, and he made one or two key saves, and perhaps with his body and his positioning forced a few shots off target from Brighton that might have otherwise been even more dangerous. I thought he was overall solid. I think it's interesting the way we're looking at this too, in terms of thinking about the more important game. I mean, don't get me wrong. I love that we're still alive for the quad. I'm on board that train until we don't. But I do think it's interesting. You can see, I think, clearly how Arteta is rating these games when you think about who when you think about who was playing in each of them. The first choice lineup came on to play Burnley in the league, and it was the backup, so the B team that played against Brighton in the Carabao Cup. Now, I will be curious to see how that continues to develop as we go forward. Certainly if they make the semifinals, I think you're going to see a much more serious effort. Of course, the trophy itself being so close to their grasp. I think that's partly why another layer to what makes the Palace game so intriguing. And frankly, we were talking about lineup decisions earlier as well. So much of that is internal. You almost can't worry about what the other team is going to do because you're looking at your roster and going, okay, he can play, he can't play, he can't play, he shouldn't play. So in a sense, your team almost picks itself because of all the other things you're trying to think about in terms of the different competitions you're in. But again, given the choice, with all the rotation we saw, to me, Gyökeres' strong half in a game that the club clearly saw was more important, to me was more valuable than perhaps Aretha Balaga, helping us get through to the next round. But having said that, I think it's a perfectly fair choice to make. And, again, I'm all on board with winning silverware. So,
Yeah. Well, that leads me to, first of all, just kind of a feeling I wanted to share with you, which I haven't felt necessarily for maybe a couple years now with Arsenal, but that feeling of like something is happening. Like this is a really magical season. Like the basically the first season that I watched with you, where it was a 22-23 season, we had the home kits with the collar on them. And that was the first time that we won a spot in the Champions League in recent memory, and it was the first time recently that we came in second in the table. And there's just this feeling like, you told me at the time, like this club has earned our belief, right? Like even when things feel like maybe they aren't going great, like we can trust that they will pull something out. Like I have that feeling about this club where generally an optimistic outlook that things in general, match by match, will work out well. They're in such amazing form. Let's just bask for a moment again that we are still top of the table, right?
Don't take moments like this for granted. I mean, this is your fourth season, right? I mean, you've come in a not quite golden age, because we can go back 20, 25 years. People will tell you about the Invincibles and that run they went on and the seasons around that, of which I saw the very tail end of. Yeah. I mean, fans watching that would not have been able to tell you about some of what was going to be happening in the years that followed. The almost decade-long trophy drought, broken finally by beating Hull City in the FA Cup. The fact we haven't won the league in 20 years. The fact that we, still arguably, especially with PSG winning the Champions League last year, arguably the most successful club in Europe without a Champions League title, without a European title to our name, or the European Cup, to our name. So,
right.
To be a team of this quality, and that's kind of, I won't go down that rabbit hole. But I do think the quality that this team has and the opportunity for them to win something. We joke about the quad, but you just look at that lineup. If they can avoid having players losing a player every single game to injury, 4 is on the table.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's not an insane thing to say. Will they? I would be shocked. I don't think that's going to happen. It's too difficult. Honestly, if you told me they were trying to rotate the side and they got bit by Palace in the quarterfinals of the Carabao Cup, and a month from now, or a month and a half from now, we're talking about how stupid that sounded. Yeah, no, that's fair. I do think, though, the way they're going to prioritize the season, I do think I have a hard time seeing them not winning one of the 2 big ones, which is an interesting feeling. They are Again, are they going to have rough stretches? Yeah, City is certainly not done yet. Liverpool has had some struggles, but they're for all that they're not that far behind us. There are a lot of banana peels between now and then, but we've given up 3 goals on the season through 3 months.
Yeah, it's a good spot to be in, definitely.
Yeah, this team is something else.
Yeah, so for this team coming up in the next week, we return to the Champions League, right?
Yes, we are going to have an away game to Slavia Prague. We played them, a handful of years ago back in the days of the Europa League, or our days in the Europa League, I should say. It hasn't been a great start for them in the Champions League. A pair of draws away to Atalanta and home against Bodo Glimt, but also a 3-0 loss at Inter Milan. It's never easy to go to Central and Eastern Europe. I certainly look at, Slavia Prague is on a team. This is the Champions League. They've been in the Champions League before. But I also look at this as a game and think we could do a number on these guys. I do think there is a world where we and I'm going to eat these words later this week if we lose. But I think there's a world where we could really hammer them. I think the Champions League is just a different kind of environment. I think there's a lot we can do with our lineup and the depth we have and the way other teams play against us. I think this could be a really big win. This could be a nice big one.
Yeah. And then who do we face next in the Premier League coming up?
Next in the Premier League is our old friend Granit Xhaka and the shocking Black Cats of the North England, the Weir side. We're going to see Sunderland, currently sitting 7th in the league table, having just actually no, they play Everton tomorrow. They haven't actually played their 10th game yet in the season. They beat Chelsea last weekend. And a lot of wins against teams better than them. They did lose to United. Actually, they lost 2-0 to Burnley. So it'll be our trip up to the Stadium of Light. First time we've been up there in a number of years since they were the last in the league. Really a nice story for the early part of the season. Obviously, we know about Xhaka and some of his qualities. It'll be good to see the old friend again, but also a game where we should, I don't want to say confident, but given what we've done the last couple of weeks and done so far this season, I think a win would not be a shocking result.
Yeah, definitely not. So where can viewers find those matches?
Well, the Champions League, once again, go back to the wonderful world of streaming, so still on Paramount+. Sunderland, however, in the midday in the U.S., so that'll be on NBC. That game will be on Saturday. Slavia Prague is on Tuesday.
Broadcast over the air. How about that? But also, as we've mentioned before, when it's on NBC, that means it will also be on Peacock Plus live also. So, or I said Peacock Plus, I meant Peacock. Well, I guess there is Peacock Plus. That's when you remove the ads or something. And I guess that is what you need for Premier League. So I thought I was wrong, but maybe I'm not. But on Peacock. Peacock Premium.
Let's go with Peacock and we'll figure it out.
Yeah. Thanks for joining us at Gooner U. If you're watching us on YouTube, you can also listen to the podcast version of our show on Apple, Spotify, and some other places. If you're only listening, try watching us on YouTube with a link in the show notes. Your homework for today is to comment on or reply to one of our videos. Agree with us, disagree, or just say hi, but we'd love to hear from you in any case. We record the show using Zencastr. If you'd like to try it out, you can support Gooner U by signing up using the link in the description, which also has links to everything we talked about and our socials. Again, my name is Dove, and you can find me on Twitter at DoveFrankel. With me, as always, is Keith, and you can find him in a pub watching Arsenal matches.
And a happy daylight savings time switch day to our American audience.